shadows. We gotta hide our traces, and no one can see our faces, and no one can see what we're about to do. The sky.
You're alone in the jungle now. You wanna make a fire but don't know how. You're alone in the jungle now, trying to survive. You're alone in the jungle now. You wanna make a fire but don't know how. You're alone in the jungle now, full of stupid monkeys. Monkeys think they're really smart, always knew it from the start. They came up with science and arts, covering their monkey parts. Monkeys are confused, always asking why. Monkeys are scared, they don't want to die. Monkeys pray to gods and then they fight about whose god is right. You know it's just another monkey. 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 You know you're 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 just another monkey.
When you join the monkey choir,
just another monkey.
when you learn what it's about,
You're just another monkey.
when you finally have the fire,
You're just another monkey.
you can burn the jungle down.
You're just another monkey. They're alone in the desert now. They wanna make a fire but don't know how. They're alone in the desert now, trying to survive. They're alone in the desert now. They wanna make a fire but don't know how. They're alone in the desert now, and you're the stupid monkey. You know that you're really smart, always knew it from the start. You have power, you have heart, you could save the planet, but there's stupid monkeys everywhere. They don't give a heck, no they don't care. Keep everything themselves, they only share tears, hope, thoughts and prayer. And they run, run around, around, around they run, so proud of what they own. And they run, run around, around, around they run, frightened to be alone. Yeah, we run, run around, around, around we run, so proud of what we own. And we run, run around, around, around we run, but you know you're not alone.
you two are getting rough. My mind just sounds like Shia LaBeouf. It says no, 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 no. Just no, 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 no. And every time I see him with you, my heart sounds like Shia LaBeouf too. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Shia LaBeouf, it says no, 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 no. Just no, 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 no. And every time I see him with you, my heart sounds like Shia LaBeouf too. No, 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 no.
Good morning, all. Let's see. I left the background music in play. I don't know if it's gonna actually mess with y'all or not, but I'm gonna leave it there for a second while I pull up the rest of these charts, and I'll talk a little bit. Then I'll cut the music so that y'all can hear me clear. Let's see. Yes, there's my kids being crazy in the background as they're walking out the door with my wife. So, apologies. All good though. Alright, so people are freaked out over yesterday. I don't understand why. Actually, I do. I get it. Like, that was several of us back in the day, right? But honestly, there's no reason to be freaked out. It's good, healthy retracement. Here, let me check. Switch over to this chart. I mean, crypto's already bouncing, and that's that same retracement level I was talking about wanting to see actually on Bitcoin and some of the others. So let me this. Tony said happy bloody Thursday. Dude, I know people are freaking out here. Let's jump over to SPY real quick, because I know that was probably the biggest kind of drop that most of y'all have experienced, but honestly that wasn't all that crazy. Compared to it was something we experienced a lot of us back in 2022. Like, that crap used to happen a lot. And it used to happen, and then it would have follow through. So, and I'm not saying we did that by any means. We did break trend, it looks like, on SPY and several others. We tapped this demand zone and bounce. So, what you want to be careful of today is like retracement bounces. Same thing as when we're in uptrends. So here, let me look at the 4 hour and show you something. So just like whenever we were working our way up here on SPY, and we had these pullbacks and then moved higher, pullback, move higher, pullback, move higher. So we have yet to see, and we'll find out here in the coming day. Let me delete a lot of these minor support and resistance levels. We'll go back and re-add them if necessary. But I imagine that what we're going to see on a lot of the indices and stocks in general in the coming days or weeks is, and yeah, I'll look at sell for you, Matt. I imagine what we're going to see on a lot of things is they're going to finally go fill gaps that they left on the daily charts over the last couple of weeks and months. But ultimately, the Fed interest rate decision came in as expected for yesterday, but people are freaking out because there's a lot less rate cuts expected for 2025 now because inflation's hotter than expected, combined with people are still spending money like crazy. So yeah, I mean, ultimately you gotta leave the emotions out of it. I know it's hard, especially when like some people are in big tech calls and all that kind of stuff, and that's why I steered clear of trading those and stuck with trading a lot of other things. There's a lot of other tickers. If you look at the charts this morning, they bounced back completely already. There's other tickers that were almost completely unaffected, but SPY, we're going to be watching that trend. I'm not actively trading SPY right now. QQQ, probably similar thing, right? So yeah, it's testing of trend. It looks like it bounced at the trend line itself. So we'll find out today based off how Nvidia and Apple move, because that's really what, at the end of the day, if you look at QQQ and SPY, they're being driven by the top 10 weighted biggest contributors to those indices. So it's not the other way around. And Nvidia has been driving most of the movement for a while now. So let's see, where is Nvidia on pre-market right now? So this is what I was talking about on the live stream yesterday, and it's also what looks like it might actually end up playing out. So on Nvidia, if I look at the larger time frame, and if the video's unclear, check your settings on YouTube to make sure that you got it set to 1080p. But here's what I was talking about yesterday on the morning session as well. So we broke this first uptrend, right? And we had kind of moved our way down. And then we had this smaller time frame downtrend. Well, yesterday, Nvidia perfectly tagged that and rejected. And then that was before we even had the news, actually, from the Fed. So Nvidia rejected at that trend right there. And then the news came and then it bombed, right? So what you need to be careful of here is this downtrend continuing, because now we have actually confirmed a break and a retest at this point of this larger time frame uptrend on Nvidia. So what we have to see here is Nvidia going to commit to this breakdown here, which is probably going to take it down to that 119.38 gap fill in the coming days or weeks, or is it going to be able to break out of the shorter term downtrend and then retake this longer time frame uptrend that we've been monitoring? So right now that's where Nvidia stands, but you can see even with the pre-market bounce, Nvidia is still very much still in this downtrend, as well as the setup right here. Like, it's probably going to retest and reject. This is why it's dangerous to swing calls on stuff like this in zones like this, because honestly, like, yeah, maybe we bounce back, maybe we rip out of this and it moves to that 141.31 gap fill. But if it doesn't, calls that are even, you know, January, February, March may not ever recover if we can't retake and move higher here. So just a spot, it's kind of dangerous overall. But yeah, we may move down lower. I'm going to be watching this. We scalped some Nvidia puts yesterday off the news. When I saw that key rejection, we entered those and those went nuts. I wish I would have rode mine a little bit longer personally, but I sold them, you know, when we tapped the first support level, because that was the plan. So stick with the plan, exit the trade, take the gains. But yeah, that's where Nvidia stands right now. Tesla also took a nasty drop yesterday with its rejection, which the interesting thing on Tesla is if you look here, it actually perfectly played out that measured move over the larger time frame. Like, look how perfect that measurement was. It hit that level, it rejected, and it sold off since. So again, this one's got some bounce going on since yesterday, but you want to be careful here, because now you've got this as a minor support range. Celsius, we're talking about Celsius. Alright, I'll look at Celsius in a second. So yeah, I'm not actively trading calls or puts on Tesla. I am in my shares still. I'm probably going to go ahead and sell cover calls on it if I see a rejection. Like I mentioned to some of y'all yesterday, the key point that you want to watch on Tesla here is whether or not it can hold above that previous all-time high level. So that's going to be really something you want to keep an eye on this week. See where we close. we jump over to Celsius since that seems to be a hot topic. It's tried really hard to hold the support level at this point. That's the interesting thing. So, I don't know. We'll see what Celsius does, especially if somebody, like, if they cover or attempt to cover, which I need to look. I haven't checked to see if it's actually in a short situation to where it needs to be covered. We'll find out here in a second. In a thread. Where to see if it's short? Hey, that's actually what Stevie just asked. Let's see. So, there's a lot of misconception when it comes to shorting and short squeezes and high short interest and all of those things. And to be fair, most of us that traded during 2020 and 2021 kind of had this flawed understanding of what that was because all the hype and how people spoke to it around AMC and GME. I bought into the hype back then too, realized that's not really how it was working, so made a point to actually dig in and better understand how that stuff actually works. So a lot of the stocks and stuff that people will say are short squeeze candidates, just because something has high short interest doesn't mean that that's going to short squeeze. And in fact, I've got quite a few stocks that are on some of my list in Webull that actually got delisted along the last couple of years just because they were being shorted because they were probably going out of business, or they were getting delisted because they didn't meet the requirements for the exchange anymore. So that's sort of one of the things that just because something has high short interest doesn't mean necessarily it's a short squeeze candidate. It's more of understanding of whether or not it was high short interest, but then actually had, what is this? Matt sharing UFOs. So Celsius, I haven't looked at the short info. I look on, sorry Stevie, I need more coffee apparently, but to answer your question, this is why I like the Ortex Premium subscription, and it is expensive, so not for everyone, but you can see here like the short interest and everything in the data, and it's actually good data, it's not just random info, but you can see that overall, like Celsius, like they got a short score like 64.76 on it, and I mean, this doesn't look like a super high short squeeze candidate to me. Whereas if I look at the top short interest list over here, and again, not just purely looking at short interest, but understanding and watching over time what's going on with some of these stocks. Because I want to show y'all a couple that are going to stand out that you're going to be like, wow, that one recently ripped. And that's correct, because it probably was an actual short squeeze candidate. So, let me show you. I think MBIZ is still on the list. Actually, and MBIZ is steady ripping right now. So, the other kicker it comes into play with shorting, or not shorting, but the other kicker it comes into play with like high short interest candidates and stuff is when you have massive drops and stuff. The one part that people did talk about in 2020 and 2021 was margin calls and all that crap. Again, I think there's a lot of misconception around it. However, there is a bit of like truth a little bit to the component of whenever you have big massive movements, it can trigger margin calls and buying opportunity for a lot of these stocks that have to be covered by certain larger institutions. But yeah, like MBIZ, you can see here that it actually had a short score of like 90 on here. They had, let's drill into it. And for those that aren't familiar with it, we got in shares on MBIZ last week and check this crap out. But you know, so like we got in shares last week and yesterday this thing just ripped. It dropped off with the Fed news some, but it's already popping back. So that may not look like all that much of a move, but that was a huge move on MBIZ. And it looks like if you look over here, like look at the big huge buying volume. Look at this massive volume candle. So definitely going to be keeping an eye on my MBIZ shares here, riding that out, because if it pushes above that 133 range, it's going to continue to rocket. So this one actually is a short squeeze candidate. If you want to look at it from a technical standpoint, technically we broke out of that and we're ripping, right? And for those that aren't familiar with MBIZ, so they make like the LiDAR don't even know if that's how you say that, honestly, but it's basically like the vehicle sensors that measures depth perception and for autonomous driving and some other uses. So that's one of their tech things that they do, and I forget which manufacturers they actually do that for, but yeah, Invis is one of those that I've traded on and off over the years, but it's very cheap from a stock standpoint, and it has potential to rip a ton, especially if it actually ends up squeezing a bit, which you can see here that the data dropped off some, which is probably a result of that massive buying that we saw yesterday. That being said, it's still a short squeeze candidate. So, like from a true short squeeze candidate standpoint, just because shares available. So definitely watching this to see what happens and how that plays out. One thing that's annoying when it comes to short squeezes and stuff in general is every time you get some stock that moves like 5%, you see people across social media talking about, oh, it's squeezing. That's not really how that works. So like when something's short squeezing, it's nuts. And if you kind of lived through GameStop and GME, AMC and stuff back in 2021, you'll remember the very rapid volatile movement back and forth and moving dollars within seconds rather than just moving up rapidly. So just because something is moving up and buying fast doesn't mean it's squeezing. And I think that that's where that terminology gets misused a lot. So let's see. Jumping back and switching over. Yeah, Analyzer, I hit Celsius a few minutes ago, but let me go back over to it and kind of talk to it from a technical standpoint. And I don't know why this thing's being so laggy all of a sudden. So like I'm still riding my position here, even though this thing did break the trend. We all know that it can bounce fast off these levels and rip back up to 30 plus. So I'm staying in the position just because I only entered a very small position on the setup. I should have done the smart thing and trimmed to cover my cost basis minimally on that one, and I didn't. So that's like the one thing that's lingering in my Robinhood account that is stinging me a bit. But y'all saw that I offset those losses with several gains yesterday, so my account for the week is still up nicely. So I'll keep on cranking, but yeah, this is the one that I'm kind of mad at myself for taking that 2K hit on it, but I should have trimmed to cover the cost basis earlier. So definitely still watching this here. Look at Lumen real quick. So Lumen broke that first level, and when we're looking at this, a lot of these are going to be a little skewed at the moment just because the very rapid movement that came into play from sympathy movement yesterday. So keep that in mind. Again, maintaining my small position. I'm not adding to Lumen here yet. I'm going to wait and see how things play out. See if it's going to head down to 473 or if it's going to retake and move up higher. But yeah, that's the current levels for Lumen. We looked at Nvidia, we looked at Tesla. Let's look at Apple real quick. So yeah, Apple. Get rid of some of these. Apple is trying to hold the range. At least until this next bear flag plays out. And just because I know that there was some misconception and miscommunication related to it, and I want to clarify because Body did call something out the other day that I want to make sure that I'm not misspeaking to. Like when I say bear flag or bull flag, I'm not talking about bull trap or bear trap. Like I don't buy in and trade based off of the idea of bull traps and bear traps. Like I know that that's kind of something that terminology is used quite a bit amongst the retail groups and stuff. But like for me, I don't really see it like that because I see the options movement behind the scenes, and I understand that the whales and the larger institutions are making their money off of the options premiums regardless. So when I say bull flag or bear flag, I'm talking about the true technical patterns that are in play. For instance, like I don't typically use pre-market and after hours movement. However, if I was, this would be technically a bear flag because you have a flagpole, you have a consolidation range here that is your flag. So again, I'm not using pre-market and post-market movement to use my charting typically because the low volume movement can kind of skew and not be accurate. But Just wanted to call that out and clarify, just to make sure I wasn't causing miscommunication, because I want to make sure that I'm actually speaking to stuff in an appropriate way that makes sense and that is the right way. I don't want you to have a flawed understanding of how a lot of this stuff works, or I don't want to sound like I'm trying to convey something it's not actually what I'm seeing. So yeah, I'm looking at SQ block for you right now, Analyzer. So yeah, like honestly, like on a lot of these big drops that we saw yesterday, I know Tony was freaking out over applied, and we'll look at that one here in a second. But like this bullish setup on the larger time frame is very much still intact. Like I said, yesterday caused a bit of skewed expectations because you had those big massive red candles that was market wide. What I recommended and how I'm going to be looking at things today is, even with that, which of these other tickers that are not the main tech tickers that everyone wants to trade, like Nvidia, Tesla, and Apple, but which of these tickers still have a bullish setup intact, those will make sense to trade calls on, and this is a good opportunity. There's other tickers that are going to have breakdowns similar to what we traded with Nvidia and Apple yesterday, where we made huge gains on puts. There's nothing wrong with trading puts and calls on different tickers. That's actually a really important lesson and a good thing to learn earlier on. So as soon as you can understand that at any given day you're going to have red tickers and green tickers. You can make gains on calls on a ticker that is red on the day, and you can make gains on puts on a ticker that is green on the day. So you can't get hung up on the market doing one thing, like the whole market's red and the whole market's green, because in reality, that's just not how things work. So we will continue to look at each of the tickers independently and trade the setups that are in front of us. You can use the pullbacks and stuff that we had yesterday as an opportunity to get better positioning on longer term swings, which is exactly why I kept on saying I was patiently waiting to enter fresh swing trades until after FOMC. I didn't know we were going to drop that hard. I knew it could happen because I've lived through several of those before, but I love it because now I've got a nice little bit more of capital on this one account, and then my other account I've basically been longing anyways, but this one Robinhood account that we've been focusing on, I've got a good chunk of capital between the trades we already took and locked gains on this week, as well as just puts yesterday, to where I can add to some long calls here on things like Applied Digital and some of the others where the bullish setup is very much still intact at the moment. So loving that. We'll be looking at SQ and Applied today. Stevie, what was the stock that we added yesterday that you brought up? And I can't remember what it was because I was going to go back and look at it today and see if it held its setup in place. I need to pull up my list real quick. Hold on. So AI was another one. AI was fantastic and a good example yesterday of trading calls in the morning session off the break to the upside and made huge gains and locked those gains. And I'm so glad that I made a point to sell those right. Like I told some of y'all, I sold those before the FOMC meeting because I was up over 110% I think at the time, and I knew that this was the intraday bull flag had formed and it had the potential for this measured move. But I knew that there could be risk that came into play with Powell and the Fed rate decision, so I made the decision to go ahead and sell my calls right up here in this flag, which I made 107% average profit on those, but that's why it's important to log gains when they're presented. So we actually entered the calls here, like literally on that candle there, because I saw the call movement and then the volume came into play and this thing just ripped. And then those went 110% in the day, and then this thing looked bombed. But one thing to keep in mind with AI is the sucker is volatile and can rapidly bounce back and forth in both ranges. So I personally will be looking at AI as well for an additional buy on a long call position here. I'm going to delete some of these just so that they're a bit clearer for us to see. Because while that shorter term setup movement did that, look, the larger time frame bull flag is very much still in play here. In fact, we're just back testing yet again this range. So if we see buying volume come to play on AI in this range, we could see a big rip to the upside. So definitely watching that, seeing if it makes sense. I'm going to be looking at the flows this morning. Let's see what you got. Stevie says. So, it's a good point. I will say, don't feel like you lost a week of training. Look at it as you maybe lost that capital because it sounds like you offset it. But to your point, it was a really good lesson. So luckily you were able to learn that lesson without taking massive hits, which unfortunately a lot of us had to experience the hard way as we were learning things earlier on, taking huge hits to the point that we actually lost money on the week. So I don't let that happen anymore for the most part. Like, I'm not going to say it never happens, but I try to minimize the risk by doing stuff similar to what I just described with AI, where I knew that the Fed interest rate had uncertainty, or I should say FOMC decision had uncertainty, as well as the outlook for 2025. So I locked gains on my position while it was up. That's also why I'm a big fan of when something is up 20-30%, going ahead and trimming the position if I'm in more than one contract so that I can cover my cost basis. If I'm not in more than one contract, then I tried to hold myself accountable to make the decision to go ahead and sell the position as a whole, secure the gains, and know that there's always another trade. Don't feel like you have to stay in a trade to try to maximize the gains on that single trade, especially if you have remaining capital sitting over as buying power. So yeah, it was Grab, Moorhead. Thanks for calling that out, dude. I was gonna go check out Grab. So that's something that I know I've struggled with in the past, and I know it's something that a lot of people struggle with, is trying to stay in a trade too long without realizing you can always enter another trade on the same stock, another stock, whatever it is. So you're never going to lose money or you're never going to go broke by taking gains. So that's why I make it a point to try to tell people to lock gains or set a stop loss or something once your position is at 5% or more. Grab's actually starting to impress me more and more, and I'm glad that Stevie called this out, because this is it's still maintaining the bullish setup right now. And now I'm curious. Now I want to look at something on it. And I think quantum stocks, I saw that QSI one there. Quantum stocks are going to rip again. So it's the big hype thing. So use this as an opportunity to re-enter some of the quant stocks. They will be good for the coming weeks and months. It's interesting to look down through my stock list and you see so many things big green in pre-market, but keep in mind 2% green today might be less than 2% red yesterday. Grab, I want to see for one what option movement, if any, was here on Ortex, which I use unusual wells typically, but here's the interesting thing. So Grab, when was the 12th? So somebody sold. This is why I'm glad I learned to use not just Ortex but also unusual wells, which shows you which directional move or bid or ask a call order was for. So like here on the 12th, it looked like somebody actually, these here would look like a bullish position if you were just looking purely at this. And this is a really important point too about why it's a bad idea to like look purely at open interest for options, specifically for calls for certain expirations and strikes, or when you see people post on Twitter or Facebook talking about huge call orders but they have no context on what the position or size is. This right here is a good example of that, because this on the 12th was literally a huge chunk of calls that, to me, looking at this, it looks exactly like someone sold those calls into the high and then it dove. And that's exactly what they did. I bet if I was to go look on unusual wells or something, that they might have even bought to close those calls already. So that's an example of selling covered calls, more than likely, is what that is. So, and keep in mind too that the size of these wasn't huge. I mean, probably huge for Grab, but yeah, if you look on unusual wells, and remind me, I'll go look here in a little bit, but I bet you somebody sold covered calls right there at that point, and then now they are up significantly on their position, as well as they protected their gains on their Grab shares by doing that. Same thing as what I do when I sell covered calls against any of my long share positions. So that's why it's important to not just go based purely on seeing calls and volume and movement of a certain strike, right? So good example, I'm still going to be watching Grab here for a long position. see what's next in the list. So crypto, y'all saw Bitcoin's already bouncing back, which is beautiful. So that in mind, like I was mentioning yesterday, it's another great opportunity to be jumping into crypto stocks on a pullback, because crypto's going to rip more and more into 2025. So notice how Wolf is still maintaining its bullish setup even with yesterday's movement. I'm going to be looking at Wolf calls again today. Same thing on Riot. Notice the whole market took a dump. Yeah, Riot, Mara, and all these others from crypto standpoint, people know that crypto's where money flows once the market freaks out. Held that support and bounced again. On Mara coin, I saw some calls. Somebody was loading up on them right before close yesterday, which totally makes sense because they were buying them, which it took that huge drop. Ooh, it filled the gap. Did it fill the gap before close? Oh, got really close though. So I'll be watching coin. MicroStrategy. Yep, so MicroStrategy broke that first level, completed that move, so I'll go ahead and delete that now. It looks like MicroStrategy is trying to hold that support right there. It's the same support from here, same support from here. It also rejected at this trend line, which is what I was watching. You can see there. So I'll be watching MicroStrategy to see can it retrace and push back up from here, or is it going to head down and test this blue trend line, or is it going to head to 278? If this thing fills the gap at 278, I'm loading the boat on shares. I don't even care. So definitely going to keep watching that. What else do we have? Well, Stevie bought grab shares or grab calls yesterday morning. As long as you phased in, you'll probably be just fine. Because that drop yesterday will be recovered as long as it holds and makes a bounce. Hood's another one that I was wanting to enter. Hell yeah. Alright, so Hood I'm going to be buying calls on today probably. Because we all know that it moves with crypto. It'll get the sympathy movement pop. Notice even with the big drops yesterday, Morehead's over here asking about alts on the dip. Always, dude. Always. So like, hopefully going through this like this is helping y'all to see why I wasn't stressed out about why I'm trading the tickers I am right now, instead of, if you look at a lot of the big tech tickers, they broke trends. They're probably going to have downward continuation after a small retracement. Things like Hood and several other tickers that we're trading right now, yeah, they had a little bit of a dip, but the bullish setup is very much still intact on those. And I know some of y'all just prefer to trade calls and not puts. That's fine. We're going to find something to trade both directions regardless. So, SoFi is another one. I need a list. Let me put it over here on my list of things that I'm going to be trading. So, grab. SoFi is another one that, look at this. Beautiful bounce, maintaining the technical setup. So, Hood, grab, SoFi. Yeah, let's look at Palantir real quick, because I still haven't given up on Palantir. Yeah, yet another one. Maintaining the bullish setup. So, Palantir. Here, actually, I'm just going to throw them in the lounge chat of ethical, and then if I need to circle back, I will. These are tickers I'm going to be looking for calls on if they maintain these setups. Sound. Absolutely. Look at this. I might actually have to pick up some shares on Sound just to minimize my exposure if things get wacky. While it's up huge this month, it's still got more upward continuation it can do. This. Yeah, Sound's still looking great. I'm still in runner calls on Sound. Let's see, what else was it that I was looking at? AI. Yup. AI is going on the list. Fly Digital. So there's those so far. Here, let me do this. Let me... call candidates. Hood. Grab. Sofa. Volunteer. Hood. Sofa. Volunteer. Sound. Blood. And I'll keep throwing them in there. Hopefully that's helpful to put those. So AI's there. Palantir making a comeback. James says AMD. Let me check out AMD for you real quick. I imagine it's similar to what we're seeing on the other semiconductors. And like, really wish people would have listened. And it wasn't me being a damn bear. It was just being realistic. And I work with a lot of them as customers, the semiconductors. The tariff impact on the semiconductor realm it's rough, and it's something that, like, look, AMD completed that other bear flag. Damn, I should have traded puts on AMD with the scalp yesterday. Wow, I didn't expect it to hit it in a day. Yeah, and like, look at this. Let's look at SMH real quick. That's what I was worried about. The head and shoulders is still intact right now in SMH, and if you're not aware, SMH is kind of the primary ETF related semiconductor, so keep an eye on this, because we've now rejected twice at trend on SMH, and we might actually break down from here. If we break down from here, things like Nvidia, AMD, many others in the semiconductor realm are going to take a dump further than they already did, which is interesting that it'll align with the levels that we were looking at a minute ago. Wow. All the SMH puts I saw in the flows yesterday on my screeners make sense now. But, sorry. So, like, yeah, definitely keep an eye on the semiconductors. I mean, all of them kind of have some danger going on, but AMD, more specifically for James, it completed that one. And here, good example of what we were talking about a minute ago. Not saying bear trap, talking about bear flag, because this is a bear flag pattern. The measured move for this flagpole was the 121.99 level. Notice how we perfectly made that measured move and then caught a bit of a bounce there. This is a technical pattern, not a bear trap. This is a played out technical pattern. So it worked well. I didn't actively maintain swing puts on it, even though I should have, but I was in several other positions, so fine with that. But yeah, you can see the setup right there. It's completed now, so I'm gonna leave that so we have it for reference, but then we'll see what happens. But yeah, James, for sure. To kind of give you context on the larger time frame as well, AMD is still very much in a downtrend here, even though it attempted the breakout a couple of times. If I look at the weekly, you can see here that AMD attempted the breakout of the trend and then rejected back within. So as of right now, AMD is still rolling in that downtrend and now has a new lower low on the trend itself. So we'll see if it can retake that support level or if it's going to keep on heading down to 116.57. But as of right now, AMD is getting smacked a bit. Click over here real quick and check if there's any other semiconductors we need to hit real quick. Then I'm gonna wrap this one up if there's not any additional tickers. Doing a favorite would have been quicker. Doing a favorite, I change up the different stuff as I'm going through it. Look at Palantir so far. What's PayPal look like? So PayPal is one, and this is why y'all didn't see me pursuing further calls on it. I don't know if it's a hunch or intuition or what, but it's not so much maintaining its bullish setup at the moment because it completed this bull flag measured move already, which was that level, and then yeah, that drop yesterday, it might hold this up here and form a fresh bull flag, but PayPal might also do a reversal here. we will have to see how that plays out. I mean, I haven't entered any new calls on it yet, and probably won't do so. Oops. I mean, it's trying to hold trend and get that bounce, but if PayPal loses this level, it's gonna tank. You're still in calls, Tony. You gotta start trimming and setting stop losses, dude, when your positions are green. So yeah, PayPal. That's what's going on with it. I'll keep an eye on that. I know DraftKings, since Tony's here, I'm gonna look at DraftKings for him real quick. Yeah, no, man. This is what I was worried about on DraftKings. So it broke that trend, right? And it completed this measured move already. And then it hasn't actually showed a true reversal. Like, these little retracement bounces like this are dangerous. And I hate it because people will lean in on bullish biases with it and they'll get trapped in calls. And then when you get a little bit of a drop, it's like you're stuck. So, DraftKings, if it can't hold and retake that level right there, it's probably going to minimally go fill that gap at 36.65. We'll see what happens today. One thing I do want to call out with a lot of these tickers is some tickers are going to get a Santa rally push or sentiment. I don't know if we'll actually cash secured put candidate. I mean, I'm not buying cash secured puts on, or I'm not selling cash secured puts on DraftKings, because right here, if it actually loses this support, it's going to keep on diving, and then you don't know whether or not it's going to lose that next support or not. So especially if it loses this right here, which it's very close to doing. This thing, like, maybe you could, like, a good point to sell cash secured puts on DraftKings might be at that $30 level, but just keep in mind also that DraftKings damn sure can keep on dropping from there too. So normally if I'm going to sell cash secured puts, I'm trying to do that like at the floor on something, not at a kind of a temporary drop, unless you're like looking to sell cash secured puts on a tap of support like this, and then you're going to rebuy them on a slight retracement if it gets a bounce. That would be one approach you could do with that if you really wanted to, but me personally, I probably would trade cash secured puts on something else. So far, getting some pre-market movement. I'm getting alerts over here. Yeah, y'all be careful today, and I'll alert and post charts and stuff throughout the day so we all stay on the same page, but be careful with a lot of the movement today. Like, I know I've got those call candidates there, and I am going to be watching those. One thing I'm going to be watching, though, is making sure that we're not just getting retracement, that then is going to be more downside continuation, because that very much can happen on a lot of the stocks. If you've lived through kind of the reversals on some of these before, then you know what I'm talking about. But James, look at Nuke. I saw the stuff with this, the like absurd movement that it had. Yeah, I don't chase or touch crap like that. Like, I know that who was it? Somebody in Ethical Trading Discord was asking about buying puts on one of the quant stocks. What was it? It was QB. So they bought puts, or were gonna buy puts, and I was like, don't do it. Like, don't mess with it. Don't do it, because you don't know how this thing plays out. And he luckily got out of them, but like, he was doing that like here because it had a big pop, and then here we are at freaking $25. That's nuts. $300%. I'm sad too, because I saw the call flows on this sucker 2 weeks ago, and I just didn't get in it. But quant stocks definitely got some love. QSI is trying to hold its support bounce. We will see. Let's see. Pump and dump. It could be pump and dump. It could also keep on ripping like the one we just looked at. So that's the thing with Nuke. I mean, that's why it's kind of dangerous to trade in that range. Yeah, I mean, it's still ripping as of right now in pre-market. So, like, it may pump and dump, but it may also just keep on rolling, just like that other quant stock did. It looks like it is heading up into historical resistance range, but even then, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to touch it. They did a split back in October. Like, for me, I don't chase it. I know it's hard not to, especially if you're kind of on a lot of the different Reddits and Facebook groups and stuff, because you'll hear a lot of people hyping and talking about stuff like this. But typically, like, what you'll learn is you don't trade or chase that kind of stuff, because it really is normally where bag holders get left. So Stevie wanted me to look at PTCT. So, I mean, that looks like it's trying to maintain that uptrend right now. That being said, this looks like it might be biopharma as well, so similar movement and oddness probably to Viking Therapeutics. It is trying to hold that range at the moment though. So, let's see here. Also, it filled this gap right here already. Interesting little setup. I mean, it's still no uptrend at the moment. The thing that bothers me on this one, and I'll kind of talk through this as a good learning example. So when I see a pullback like this, what I want to see is volume weakening. However, even though it's a very small increase, and maybe it was driven by the movement yesterday with the broader market, I'm not loving that increased in volume with that drop, which could be an outlier because of volume movement yesterday with the broader market. But normally when you want to see something reverse, you should see a taper of the volume with the selling dissipating before it reverses and goes upside. So yeah, that one might keep an eye on that to see how that shakes out and plays out. I'll look on sound, which is at insane volume, but like, see right here how it had the big huge volume, boomed into that high, and then with that pullback we saw volume taper off, and then as soon as the buyer stepped back in, volume ripped again and it pushed higher. That's more of what you would want to see with continuation of bullish movement, which that's a super simple explanation for that, but that's just some of those basic things that you can look for to help kind of figure out what's going on there. What other stocks where we need to look at? Look at the list. Yeah, I'm gonna be trying to snatch up all this kind of stuff today. Super's looking like it wants to keep on diving. It's gonna try to get a reversal there, but I don't know. See, Tony, aren't you glad you didn't sell cash secured puts on Uber back when you were up here? Because you thought about it. But at MU, man, and like, I don't know what happened to Joe. Like, Joe basically traded calls on MU into earnings, and I mean, I'll never like recommend. Y'all know how I feel about earnings, at least most of y'all do. Like, I don't. Hell, I missed out on trading calls on this setup on Broadcom because I refused to trade into earnings with the setup. Like, as much as I love the bullish setup here and I saw the call flows and movement, I wouldn't let myself trade calls on it into earnings. And I missed out on that massive move because of that. However, I can tell you that if you can kind of get over the FOMO factor of this, which I'm not gonna lie, I had some FOMO when I saw this, it will make you a more successful trader longer term, because you may get one huge good hit out of some of these like earnings plays like this, but then the other 8 out of 10 you're gonna get wrecked on the options trying to trade them due to IV crush or it not going the direction you want. So typically when it comes to earnings plays, I don't trade stuff directly. Instead, I will trade sympathy tickers similar to it, or I just stay out of the realm altogether because you don't know what the playout's going to be. So MU, there were some guys talking about it, and we talked about it on the live stream a little bit yesterday, that they had the breakout of this downtrend, but I personally didn't trade anything on this because it could have gone either direction. There's gaps to both sides on this. They were heading into earnings. I didn't listen to the earnings call. I haven't looked at the outlook, so I don't know what the takeaways were. I just know that the reaction overall, and after hours, this thing took a dive, and unfortunately, I think Joe took a big hit on some calls he was in for it, and I don't know. That's why I recommend people stay out of trying to trade something on earnings directly like that, just because 8 times out of 10 it's going to hurt, so just don't do it. This has now also formed a bear flag on the larger time frame, so I would be careful here. Actually, from a technical standpoint, that could be arguably called a bear flag breakdown because of this trend break here, which maybe it's overreaction with earnings, maybe not. And yeah, I should do this all the way from the top. I'm just grabbing it here so y'all can see it. Technically, that is a bear flag. That did not snap where I wanted it to snap. I think that would be sort of the actual bear flag. It became more of a bearish pennant when it had that uptick to it. But I mean, again, I'm not actively trading this, and like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a damn bear because I'm acknowledging that pattern. But Tony, you asked a question the other night, and I realized I didn't really give you an in-depth response. But how do you trade without a bias? You choose to acknowledge both setups, and whenever you know that there's higher risk on a certain stock, on setups that can go both directions, sometimes it's best just to not trade that stock, at least on a larger time frame for swing options. And I did that a lot with Nvidia and Tesla, and honestly I don't have FOMO at all about like how I've steered clear of trading Nvidia and some of the others the last few weeks, because I mean, prime example, right? It's like I could have traded puts probably on a scalp like we did yesterday and make gains, but for me the risk to reward wasn't worth it, because I didn't want to pay $500 for an option, whether it's a call or a put, to be far enough out to feel safer, knowing that it could move back and forth in that range and probably burn the contract. So there's so many, think of all the other tickers we've made huge gains on the last few weeks without trading those. You don't have to trade those in order to be successful, right? So MU, I'll watch it and see what happens. I'll look and see what happens on the flows as well, my screeners, see if it makes sense to trade something on it in the coming future. Maybe if it can hold that support range there and then move for a bullish upside movement or something. Maybe it was an overreaction combined with the movement yesterday with the broader markets, but as of right now, that is a bear flag. And the measured move, just out of curiosity, I want to look. 44%, damn, that could get painful. I might steer clear of this completely right now, and yeah, I mean, from my personal standpoint, this is not a good one to trade on a larger time frame for swinging right now, just because it could go either way. It has filled this gap here, but if it loses this level, it could lose it. So yeah, be careful on this, and it's going to get sympathy movement with all the semiconductors and stuff. Let me look at AMP real quick before you done it. The IMP's got the same kind of bear flag setup it's been doing. In phase is going to be impacted by the oil and gas sector, like overall in energy. So you're seeing movement based off that. Tensions rise in the Middle East. In phase is going to get a nice little pop just because oil. It's holding this setup right here. So I mean, you can watch those patterns. It's breaking out of this downtrend, so that's positive. But on the broader time frame as well, you need to keep in mind that it could have downward continuation here. So just acknowledging that, because like I said, I'm going to be unbiased about this and look at it from both perspectives, because it did retrace here and perfectly retrace to that previous support zone and treat that as a resistance. So be careful on M-phase. Any other tickers y'all need me to do real quick? If not, I'm gonna wrap it up and get more coffee before the market opens. Yeah, I got you, Analyzer. Let's look at AMAT. A lot of these stocks, I really want to see what happens today. If people calm down or if capitulation kicks in and we see panic selling more. Just because you've got so many big red candles from yesterday based off the Fed news. And I want to see if that trickles across some of these. I don't love the head and shoulders that might be playing out here though either. I'm gonna draw it and then we're gonna see if the other pattern thingy has tracked that. It sees it too. It's only catching the falling wedge. That's why I won't rely only on these things. And that's why I'm so careful about falling wedge patterns, guys. Just in case y'all are wondering why I won't trade falling wedges just at face value for swing trades, because crap like that. I mean, Nvidia is another good example of, like, totally get that falling wedge was there and acknowledging it, and I was tracking it as well because it is there. That being said, there's so many resistance overhead. Risk to reward wasn't worth it for me to try to swing calls into that, and I'm damn glad I didn't, because the sucker dropped hard and it potentially can move lower. So that's why you just want to be careful and acknowledge patterns in both directions on it. So yeah, cool. Any other tickers? Nope. Check real quick over in Bull Trade. Morning, how? Alright. I'm gonna wrap up. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe. And let's go make some gains today. Time for some more coffee. But all kinds of opportunities across the market today, especially within the crypto realm. Keep an eye on crypto and crypto stocks. There's lots of buying opportunities there right now. So hope everyone has a good day, make some gains. Talk to y'all later.